What if I told you that the most powerful person in the room isn't always the one speaking? What if influence had nothing to do with volume and everything to do with presence? There was a woman who didn't shout, didn't command attention, and never asked for the spotlight. Yet thousands were drawn to her, not because of what she said, but because of who she was. No titles, no noise, just a quiet force that shifted hearts, changed lives, and left a legacy still felt today. How did she do it? And more importantly, could you carry that same power? Let's find out. They say words are powerful, but sometimes the most unforgettable impact happens in complete silence. There was something about her, the way she entered a room, the way people paused when she passed by, as if time itself slowed down. She didn't demand attention. She didn't need to. Her presence spoke before her mouth ever opened. And that's something we forget in today's loud world, isn't it? Where everyone is trying to be seen, trying to be heard, trying to out-talk the next person. But she did the opposite. She didn't shout. She didn't compete. She simply arrived. And that was enough. Presence is energy. It's the invisible language your body speaks before you utter a single word. It's in your posture, your stillness, your eyes, the way you listen without interrupting, the calm you carry even when everything around you feels chaotic. That's what she carried. That's what moved people. She didn't have to preach or persuade. She just showed up fully grounded, fully herself. And that quiet confidence made people lean in. Because deep down, we all crave something real, not scripted, not polished. Real? You've probably met people like that before. Individuals whose calmness made you feel calm, whose silence made you listen deeper. Maybe it was a mentor, a teacher, a stranger who looked at you with such kindness that you felt seen without ever exchanging a word. That's what she did. Thousands were changed by her, not because she spoke eloquently, but because her presence carried a message louder than any speech ever could. I am here. I see you. You matter. And in a world where so many feel invisible, overlooked, unheard, that kind of presence is revolutionary. You see, she understood something most people miss. You don't have to perform to be powerful. You don't have to fill every silence or explain every thought. There's strength in restraint. There's clarity in stillness. She knew how to let her presence do the talking, how to stand in a moment without rushing to fill it, how to make others feel safe just by being exactly who she was. And when someone feels safe, they open, they soften, they change. That's influence. Real influence isn't about dominating a room, it's about elevating it. It's about carrying peace into chaos, bringing light into heavy places, being the kind of person whose presence makes others feel more themselves. And the beauty of that is, it has nothing to do with titles or status or being the loudest voice in the room. It has everything to do with who you are when you walk in, the energy you carry, the intention behind your presence. She never sought the spotlight, but the spotlight somehow kept finding her. Not because she wanted attention, but because people were drawn to something rare. Something calm, something rooted, and that's the kind of presence that changes lives quietly, gently, permanently. Her life teaches us a powerful truth. You don't have to say a lot to mean a lot. You don't need grand gestures to leave a mark. Sometimes the most transformative moments come in stillness. A hand held, a steady gaze, a nod that says, "You're not alone." She knew how to deliver that message without ever raising her voice. So many people chase charisma. They want to be dynamic, dramatic, unforgettable, but the real magic, it's in authenticity, in quiet confidence, in the kind of presence that doesn't shout, "Look at me," but instead whispers, "You belong here." She made people feel like they belonged, that they mattered, that someone truly saw them. Not just the version they showed to the world, but the one they hid. And that kind of recognition is life, changing. There's a reason people still talk about her, even if they can't remember a single sentence she spoke. Because the impact wasn't in her words. It was in her being, her calmness, her clarity, her compassion. She didn't have to announce who she was. She simply lived it. And in doing so, she reminded all of us that we don't need a stage to make a difference. We just need to be present, fully and intentionally, wherever we are. She was living proof that when you're aligned with your truth, when your inner world is calm, confident, and connected, your outer world begins to shift. People respond to you differently, not because you're trying to impress them, but because they feel something real. Something solid, something trustworthy. That's what she carried. Not a performance, not a persona, just presence, and it changed everything. Sometimes the loudest thing about you should be your silence. She didn't try to be someone else. That was the secret. In a world where people are constantly performing, pretending, and packaging themselves into whatever they think others want, she chose to be herself. Fully, completely, no apologies, no filters, and that kind of authenticity. It's rare, but it's also magnetic, because the moment someone dares to show up as they truly are, something powerful happens. They give others permission to do the same. She never tried to impress. She didn't chase approval. In fact, she let go of that need a long time ago, and when she did, she stepped into something even more powerful than acceptance. Freedom. The kind of freedom that comes when you stop editing yourself for the comfort of others. She was the same whether she was in front of 10 people or 10,000. Her tone didn't change. Her presence didn't shift. She didn't wear masks depending on the room. What you saw was what you got. And maybe that's what made her stand out. In a noisy world filled with curated lives and filtered versions of reality, her honesty was refreshing. She didn't need to be perfect. She just needed to be real. And that realness created connection. It built trust. People felt like they could breathe around her. They didn't have to perform either, because when you're in the presence of someone who's completely at home in their own skin, it invites you to be at home in yours. She wasn't loud, but she was clear. She didn't dominate conversations, but when she spoke, people listened. Not because she forced them to, but because they could sense something genuine. There was no agenda, no sales pitch, no angle, just truth, just presence, just a human being who was grounded in who she was and unafraid to show it. It's funny, isn't it? We spend so much time trying to fit in when the real power comes from standing out, not by being flashy or loud, but by being honest, by knowing who you are and refusing to shrink for the comfort of the crowd. She had that courage, and it changed everything. Because once you stop trying to be someone you're not, you give yourself space to grow into who you really are. She wasn't chasing attention. She wasn't chasing validation. She had already made peace with herself, and that peace became her power. That's the thing about authenticity. It's not something you shout. It's something you carry. People feel it in the way you walk into a room, the way you listen without judgment, the way you show up, flaws and all, without pretending to be more or less than you are. That's what drew people to her. She didn't come with flashy credentials or dramatic speeches. She didn't try to convince anyone of anything. She simply lived her truth, day by day, moment by moment. And somehow, in doing that, she spoke to the deepest parts of people, without needing to say much at all. Being authentic doesn't mean being perfect. It means being honest about who you are, where you've been, and what you're still learning. She never hid her journey. She didn't pretend to have it all together. But she owned her story, and in doing so, she helped others begin to own theirs. People followed her not because she demanded it, but because she embodied something they were hungry for: wholeness, confidence without arrogance, vulnerability without weakness, honesty without fear. She wasn't trying to lead, she was just living, and that life, lived with integrity and courage, became a quiet beacon for others. We all have that in us, the ability to influence not by force, but by authenticity, by showing up fully as ourselves without apology. When we do that, we create space for others to do the same. That's what she did, and that's how she changed thousands, without ever raising her voice. Real power isn't in pretending to be more. It's in being exactly who you are. She knew exactly why she was here, not in a loud, flashy kind of way. She wasn't chasing a dream for applause or building a platform just to be seen. Her purpose wasn't something she talked about. It was something she lived every day, quietly, intentionally, with so much clarity that people around her couldn't help but feel it. There's something deeply compelling about a person who walks in their purpose without needing validation for it. She wasn't waiting for permission. She wasn't asking for approval. She had already made the decision: this is who I am and this is what I'm here to do. It wasn't dramatic. It was steady. Her life had direction, and even when she didn't have all the answers, she still showed up. That's the thing about purpose. It doesn't mean you never doubt. It means you keep moving forward even when you do, and that's what she did. She didn't let uncertainty paralyze her. She didn't let fear keep her small. She kept showing up day after day, aligned with something deeper than comfort, louder than fear, stronger than circumstance, and people felt that. They didn't always understand it, but they felt it. Because someone who knows their purpose carries a different energy. They don't need to announce themselves or convince you to agree with them. Their life becomes the message. Their actions become the evidence. She didn't speak in slogans or give motivational speeches. She just lived in alignment, and somehow that spoke louder than anything she could have said. There's something powerful about quiet conviction. The kind of resolve that doesn't need a stage or spotlight to be real. She had that, and it gave her life a kind of gravitational pull. People were drawn to her not because she demanded attention, but because she radiated focus. She wasn't scattered. She wasn't trying to be everything to everyone. She had found her lane, and she stayed in it faithfully, gracefully, without needing applause. Purpose gives your life shape. It gives your silence meaning. When others are rushing to prove themselves, you can rest in knowing that you're already walking in what's meant for you. She didn't waste time comparing. She didn't compete. She understood that purpose isn't a race, it's a rhythm. And when you find that rhythm, life begins to flow. Even the hard moments start to make sense. Even the quiet seasons have weight. She moved with that kind of clarity, and it made people around her feel more grounded, more centered, more like they could find their own direction, too. And here's what's truly special. She didn't try to force her purpose onto anyone else. She didn't preach or push. She simply let it shape her life, and in doing so, it gently shaped the lives of others. Because purpose doesn't need to be loud to be real. It doesn't need to be explained to be effective. When someone is truly aligned with what they're called to do, it shows up in everything. In how they speak, how they treat people, how they carry themselves. She didn't chase impact. She became it. And that's the invitation for all of us. To stop trying to chase some grand destination and start asking the deeper questions. What matters to me? What am I here to give? What feels meaningful even when no one's watching? When you live in that space, when you stop performing and start aligning, you begin to live with a quiet kind of fire. You may not be the loudest in the room, but you'll carry a weight that can't be ignored. She proved that her legacy wasn't built on noise. It was built on purpose, and every room she entered felt it.